Hello. Hi, everybody. We're back. And you can see my beautiful face. You can see my beautiful face again because I've been gone a bit, really feeling down. I had surgery, if you guys don't remember. I feel a lot better. Things are still healing up, although the stitches are still there. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit before I feel like kind of safer enough to be more active. You know, the doctor orders. Okay, doctor's orders. It can't be like super active. Although I wasn't really super active to begin it. Let's be honest, okay? Well, welcome back everybody. Anybody who's here. Is that the noise of a cricket? I don't know. But either way, we like to pretend that millions of people are watching. Okay, that's what we do here. That's what we do. Okay? And you gotta fake it till you make it, That's not what they meant by that, Rebecca. Actually, it's exactly what they meant. Okay. So I got myself, okay, first of all, good news is my SSI money came in, okay? And I'm gonna save up, gonna move out of this dump. Okay, it's a great place, by the way. Don't get me wrong. Where I live right now, it's pretty nice compared to a lot of people my age, kind of going through a lot of stuff right now, but some people have their own place. Some people have roommate situations. Some people may even be like, where I was like 10 years ago, like couch surfing or homeless, so it's like, I'm actually doing really well. And I have a dad who loves me and who really cares about me. I have consultation on Wednesday for facial feminization. So I don't know exactly how much I'm going to do. It's not going to be much, but my goal is to not have to go back. Okay, so all this stuff, and mostly, I think most of the stuff is around here, like in this nose. Like, there's some masculine features that maybe other people might say that I'm imagining. I'm sorry, but you don't have to live with my face. I do. Okay, so to those people, whatever that noise means, I think you know what it means. Okay, the light is a little bit different. I'm experimenting with it because I want to, this is more of a workshop stream. I'm not trying to present anything. And also streaming in general should not really be like, unless you already have thousands and thousands of followers watching. I'm sorry if you think streaming is like this path towards success. I'm going to tell you right now, off of my own personal experience and from what I've heard from people like Devin Nash and other top creators like Mizkif, and you're not going to grow by streaming. Okay, so that's not why we're here. We're here because I want to document stuff and also kind of do some little bit community building. A little bit of a trickle in. Okay, I do have. Pretty much everybody who's in my community found me through streaming, ironically, even though I just prefaced it with what I just said. So it's like, I do gain, new community members. I try to be a little bit more selective with who I give that moderator badge, but mostly, I've gotten some, really good supporters. Just showing up and showing your support, watching, even just popping in to say hi. Those are the kind of things. That's all a girl can ask for. No, that's all I can ask for. I'm not really expecting people to follow me like they follow Mizkif or XQC or the Botez Live or anything like that. I'm not expecting anybody to be following me at that level. Okay, we're not there. Okay, I have a lot of goals in my life. One of them is writing. And I got a used Wacom tablet, Intuos, right here. And it's got the lime green kind of, whatever this is. Whatever that color is. I don't know. What is that? What color? I forgot what it's called. It's like aquamarine. No, it's like teal. Teal. That's what it is. Teal. A teal, kind of border. It's kind of nice. I do want to figure out a way to keep because I know that I can put the pen on the little ring thing like this, but I want to find a way to make sure I don't want to tie it to it because I've done that before. I could like attach like a piece of floss to it or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out because I do not want to lose this thing. Either way, I could always replace it. And also, I kind of want to get a better one because I don't know if this is, you can add attachments to it, but I might just want to get a replacement one eventually with an eraser because we're going to be doing short fiction live on stream. I'm not going to share. I do my novel writing in private because I do want to publish it and try to make money on it. And I know that it's like, okay, that's my baby. Okay. They got rid of my ability to take away babies. And that's obviously one of the side effects of, getting orchiectomy surgery. And eventually I'm getting vaginoplasty anyway. So it's not like I'd be able to have offspring anyway. Okay. So sorry, everybody. I can't have babies. So if that's what you're expecting, you could just leave. Okay. Not that would happen anyway. I don't like, have relationships with my viewers. Okay, that's not what this is. Okay. Okay, maybe I can fart in a jar, and get a patootie for you. Okay, $1,000 a jar, limited time only. But seriously, I want to be able to write some short fiction. And the power of short fiction, because short fiction, sometimes you can like submit them to writing contests, but honestly, the reason you write short fiction is not to make money. The reason you write short fiction is to get better at writing. Because what you do is you have a complete, from beginning to end process, from ideation to drafting, / outlining, to revising, to publishing. And I even started a blog, like a placeholder blog on Wix. Eventually, I'm going to just create my own domain. Okay. And, I don't know. I don't know how soon I'll do that, because I would just love to have RebeccaLauren.com. Like, honestly, that'd be pretty cool. I should grab it now before I get famous. No, seriously, it's not a problem. Here's my idea. Here's my understanding and the way I look at things is that when you are building like a social media career or a career in general, in the end of the day, word of mouth, especially when it comes to writing, word of mouth is going to be your number one advertising and marketing. Because you could be like, going on like Twitter and all like, doing all this like marketing campaign. In the end of the day, like, ask yourself, how many times have you actually clicked on an ad to go to to find like a new creator or like a new, like, obviously on YouTube, it'll just recommend it to you. That's a different kind of thing. But like, yeah, I guess you could say you've clicked on stuff for blogs and stuff too. So yeah, it works. But do those people really last is the question. And my thing is that I should literally just have like a Patreon. And I should be able to have everybody who follows me go to that Patreon and or literally just have a website that I just give to people. Like, here, like, let me text it to you. Like, it's like, like marketing is obviously a good thing, but you need a good product to do for that to work. But I really do feel like the best thing you could possibly do for marketing is to have a good product and to have really good word of mouth where somebody finds your product and tells their friends about it. Because that person tells a friend, two friends, those friends tell two friends, those friends tell two friends. By the end, you have a bajillion friends. Maybe not. I don't know. But we are going to be writing. And I have a new workflow that I've created just for writing. Writing, sketching, maybe even eventually creating like works of art. Who knows? But I've been using, my tablet, and I'm developing, new workflows for my writing. And by the way, I could actually show this. Let's see. Let's get started. Let's get started. Okay, let me just delete all that. Okay, let me get here. Let me let me get some notes. Okay, so here we go. So now what was I talking about? Oh yeah, here's here's my workflow. Workflow from start to publish. Okay. So start with, well, first of all, ideation. Just thinking about the idea. Then you have drafting, and the way I draft is kind of multifold. Okay. So I I do multiple things. So I write a scene, and I call these, right? Okay, let's see. Outline scene. Wait, no. I call them outline scenes, right? Outline scenes. Work on outline. So I write outline scenes to come up with ideas for an outline. And then I use that outline to kind of, I mean, this can go back and forth like a bunch of times. And this goes out throughout the whole drafting process. But eventually, I use these two scenes. Oh. Eventually, I use both of these to write draft. Write draft scenes. This is pretty much where I've been for a long time, just on draft scenes. And these are kind of like, closer to what they're going to look like in the revision process. And this is like refine outline. No, because these three. No, these three kind of cycle back and forth between each other. So, what's a good way to draw this? Like these three. And then this goes back to this. And the draft scenes get more and more closer to the finished product. and then prepare and separate from all this thing is transcription. Transcribe to main document for revision. And so, you know, throughout this whole thing, I'll be outlining scenes. I mean, I'll be writing outline scenes. There's basically like short versions of the scenes, which is, I usually do this by hand. Handwriting. I'll do this by hand. I can sometimes do this by hand, but okay, so I can do this by hand, both paper and digital, as I'm doing right now, working digitally. I can do this on typewriter. And I can do this on a PC, laptop, or even on phone. Like, you know, just typing into the phone. So this... Yeah, all of these go into like a single process of drafting. Where I'll be writing like a little short outline scene. So like it's kind of like a shorthand. It's kind of a shorthand that I use in order to figure out how I'm going to work out the scene flow, because it's important for me to understand the flow. And usually I'll improvise these. These are usually improvised. It's too. Usually improvised. Slightly less. Slightly closer to finish. So the draft scenes are slightly closer. And these prepared for revision. And so I've never really gotten to the revision stage. I have worked on revision for essays and stuff, so but never for stories, and that's kind of what I want to work on. In this stream particularly, the reason why I want to write short fiction on stream is so that I can, you know, first of all, I want to be working on my novel throughout throughout the next course of until I finish it. But I've gotten into some good writing habits, journaling, and doing all sorts of stuff like that. And writing every single day, at least daily progress and goals for the day. Mostly the goals have just been to like keep going. So it's like I just kind of remind myself to just keep going, and any additional goals, of course. But mostly I've been writing progress, like a paragraph or so every day. And even a small amount of writing, you could write 50 words a day. It doesn't matter. You're getting yourself into a workflow, you're getting yourself into habits, and that builds over time. And eventually you end up writing more and more. And the reason why I want to write short stories, not only is because it kind of goes through the whole writing and drafting, the whole ideation, drafting, and revision process, kind of at warp speed. And it kind of gives you, it'll give me a lot of practice for that whole process. And throughout the whole time, obviously, when I'm off stream, I'll be working on my novel more. Because I like to work on multiple projects, and because I can't just work on 100 words a day on one novel, and then just say, oh well, I guess I have nothing else to do. May as well play video games. No, I'm not going to do that. Not that there's anything wrong with video games, I just don't feel like it. I'd rather be working on something productive for myself, which is trying to get short stories. And what better way to start a writing presence on my internet hodgepodge of bullshit than to publish short stories on a blog. It's a great way to publish. I don't have to worry about leaking anything because it's going to be published for free anyway. Short stories are not really monetary goals. They're kind of just craft goals, and also growing my business. If I can write some good stories, not only does it make my writing better, it grows an audience, so that when I do have a novel, I can just slam it down on the table and they'll buy it. But I do want to try to traditionally publish it first. Because I feel like I've put so much time and effort into this story, Evenstar, that I don't want to just slap it up on Amazon. I want it to go through an actual process where it survives the process. Because if it survives the traditional publishing process, you've got a good book. It's one thing if I just get a PDF file, make a quick draw up some stick figures on MS Paint or whatever, and make a cover and publish it on Amazon and tweet about it. That's one thing, but am I going to know if that's going to sell? It'd be one thing if I had a million followers or something on Twitter. Then I could just post whatever the hell I want. But I would still, if I was going, see, the thing about self-publishing is that it does not get rid of the need to go through the professional process that a traditional publisher would do for you, or with you rather. But mostly a traditional publisher like Tor or someone has their own editors, has their own marketing, has their own cover artists. Everything would be they have an infrastructure designed for writing and publishing books. And so if you can get through an agent to an editor to be published through a traditional publisher like Tor, you're set. That they're going to buy it. They only buy a book, a manuscript, if they know it'll sell. So you're going to, not only do they front you the money, or they give you an advance, or whatever they call it, on the money, once you sell a manuscript, that'll give you, obviously, a source of income so you can work on new projects. But once it sells, you're going to get international, the main money comes from localization when they translate it to different languages, which means you might have to work with different agencies and stuff. But that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have. Okay. That means you're going to be making more money. But if I'm just self-publishing, all of that is my responsibility. And I don't want to, I want to be spending my time writing. I don't want to be spending my time marketing. And you know, obviously, you know, in my case, that's a little bit of a different story because I'm trying to build something for myself anyway. But not just about writing. You know, I'm doing like YouTube and like Twitch and YouTube and like OnlyFans and stuff like that. So it's like there's, you know, I want to build separate, like multiple things. But if I could get to a point where I can write novels at a decent level that I can traditional publish and focus on that as a primary source of my income, that would be a good life, I think. You know, doesn't mean I have to stop doing everything else, but it would be nice to have, you know, little different missions in my life where I can focus on different things. So that's mainly, you know, that's more about publishing. I don't have to worry about that with short fiction. I just throw it up on a blog. I'm not expecting money for it. Maybe eventually I could, you know, publish an ebook of a collection of the short stories with some additional stuff that you can't find on the blog. You know, put it in like a readable format, even publish it as a book form. Who knows? You know, eventually, if I, you know, get enough readers to merit publishing a collection of short stories, that's a different thing. But the thing is novels are the main source of income for writers. You know, besides like, you know, ghostwriting and article writing and journalism. Especially when you get deals with Audible. So that would be, that's really the goal. Is write novels. But you know, I'm working on my novel. I'm not like pausing it, but I don't, you know, there's so many hours in a day where I don't want to just work on my novel for like 30 minutes and then do nothing for the rest of the day. So it's like I can do, you know, have some fun with you guys, writing short stories and just hanging out. Wouldn't that be a good character arc for my stream? Where we just hang out and write and draft and, like, you know, talk about whatever, you know, because I really don't feel like gaming anymore. I don't feel like chess even. Don't worry, I have not given up on chess. Every now and then, people need to take long-term breaks from chess. It's actually pretty normal in the chess world. You'll see people get up to, like, you know, even like the Grandmaster and Super Grandmaster level, and they'll take, you know, eventually they kind of have to retire. But, you know, even someone like Garry Kasparov, he hasn't completely retired. And, you know, he has his own chess school and all that kind of stuff. You know, there's all this stuff in life besides just doing one thing, okay? You don't have to do just one thing. You know, you don't have to just write novels. You don't have to just write short stories. You don't have to just be a writer in general. You can be a chess player. You don't have to just be a chess player. If you're playing at the top level, that's kind of a different world I don't really know about. I kind of have seen it, but I don't really know about. So revision, I'm not too practiced in that. It's a completely, it's almost like it's almost like it's a completely separate entity. So I'm even gonna, like, you know, partition this off a bit. Revision's kind of its own entity. It's where you kind of process. It's kind of the same process, I think, like ideation, drafting. You know, where you go back and forth between these things, but then it's like this is a much more refined version of that process mentally. You know, with ideation. So that could be, you know, brainstorming. Oh, not brainstorming. Clean outline. Like, write a clean scene, beat by beat, actually. Scene by scene beat by beat outline. This is like a more refined outline. Like this, it's one thing to have a general outline like I do during the drafting process, but during the revision process, it's kind of like, I guess it would be like making a production script for like a TV series or a movie. Is where you have like it breaks things down in a much more like this happens outline. You know, just to have an overview, and that'll help me process it. Print entire manuscript. Line by line notes. And this is handwritten. So it's like I think it's important to print it out, and like double spaced, so you can like write your notes. And then you go through editing, which is threefold. So you have copy editing. This is editing. This is kind of like a big picture. Fix plot holes. Fix big errors. Then you have line editing, which is smoothing out the sentences. And then you have proofreading, which is for some reason what a lot of writers or would-be writers seem to think that is what editing is. This is like the last stage. Spelling, punctuation, grammar. So that's what proofreading is just spelling, punctuation, grammar. That's the last thing you do. You want to do this, this is the order to do it in. You want to do the big picture stuff first. Fix the big errors. Like if your character has a mustache on page 40, but didn't have a mustache on page 38, unless there's some kind of explanation for it, that's probably not going to be a thing. Like if it's a very specific part of your plot, like, like there's time travel involved or something. That's probably something you want to fix. Or if your character's wearing a blue shirt in the same scene, but then suddenly is wearing a red shirt. And obviously not counting like in canon plot or anything like that. Like most likely the reason is because you forgot what that character was wearing. And some people have like so many different methods of remembering this. However you do it doesn't really matter. And most of the time you want to hire a different person for this. For my novel, my goal is to hire my own professional editor before I start sending queries to traditional publishers for my novels. So what I would do is I would actually find a professional editor, and I'd probably have to go shopping for somebody who has worked on books that are similar to mine, have similar style, somebody that I could work with. And, you know, I think they usually charge like, it's going to cost like, hiring an editor can cost a lot of money. If you're going to self-publish, it means you have to get a high-quality editing job. If you're editing just for somebody to, like, you know, if you want to do a cheaper job before you get to the final editing, you know, like if I'm going to be querying to traditional publishers, I just want to get it cleaned up and look nice. So that's going to be a lot cheaper. But if you were going to go traditional, if you're going to self-publish, you'd have to do the full editing process. You'd probably be spending like $2,000. And this is why I say, like, people say like, oh, self-publish, it's so much easier. It's not. You have to do everything that a traditional publisher would do by yourself. It means you have to hire your own editor. You're going to be spending at least like $2,000 for a professional editing job, like an actual editing job, like where you go through the whole thing. The editor works directly with you. That's, you know, proofreading is not an editor. And if all your editor does is, you know, fix your spelling, punctuation, and grammar, run the hell away. Do not waste your money on someone who does that. If you're going to spend money on an editor, especially if you're going to be self-publishing, do it right. Find somebody who's going to directly work with you. You know, you send them your manuscript, and they get back to you and they ask you questions. And you know, they even ask you to like send them revisions, and you go through this whole editing process. I would not hire an editor unless this person did that, which means that they're going to be more expensive. But I would probably find somebody, the goal would not to be to publish myself. The goal would be to get a manuscript that's ready to be sending to agents and editors, you know, like, you know, for traditional publishing, like for Tor, you go directly through, like, basically you find an agent. Like, I don't know, I would need to find an agent, so I would need to query to an agent first. So I would just want to have something that's clean, kind of go through just to get a finished manuscript, I would just want to get it cleaned up. I don't know. It's a lot of work going into a manuscript, and so I wouldn't want, like, why would I skimp on the editing process? Like, if you spend so much time writing something, and then you like, you know, spend like $50 on an editing job, like, why? Like, you spend years of your life. I've been working on the novel that I've been working on, that I'm working on again. That's my biggest novel project I've ever written. I think I've written at least 140,000 words to it. At the very least, I've written like 100,000. It's somewhere in between there. A lot of that is like notes and stuff that I may or may not have transcribed. I don't know. But that, you know, that was a first draft, and it developed my characters, and I've kind of published that already, but it's not anywhere near where the story is now. The characters were developed, which is what's important, because it's, you know, it's important for me to have a firm understanding of my characters. And so if you spend, you know, I started that NaNoWriMo of 2014, 7 years and 8 months ago, that I've been thinking about these characters. And these characters have been with me through thick and thin in my life. And I've come back to write scenes for these characters every now and then. But now I'm having a dedicated focus again where I'm on draft B. And it's time for me, like, if you spend that much time thinking and working on something, wasn't really actively working on it a lot of the time, but I was thinking about them. You know, they're characters that I've been focusing on this story, like thinking about it for 7 years and 8 months. If I finished a draft and basically I have my own editing process before I find an editor to hire. But I would want to I would want to find an editor who's has references and has a good track record of getting people published, and spend the money that they're worth. Because you spend years on a novel, why would you only spend like $20 on an editor? I would expect to at least spend like $500 on an editor. Like, no joke. Like, if I spent years on a novel, I'm going to spend at least like $500 on an editor, if not like 1,000 or 2,000, to get a completely polished manuscript. That I could send to a traditional publisher and hopefully not have to go through the editing process again. But the thing is, you want that manuscript to be read. You want them to look at it. So if you're going to spend years in your novel and then skimp on the editing, and then you get like a subpar manuscript in front of an agent or an editor, depending on the agency, like depending on the publisher, like some publishers, you can only get to the editor through an agent. Some traditional publishers, you might be able to just query directly to the editor. But most likely I would have to go find an agent. And in order to find an agent, I'd have to give them a product that they know they can sell. And so I would not skimp on my manuscript. I would have a solid manuscript that I could start querying. And that might take years, because you send one out, and sometimes you can't, you have to know what you're getting yourself into, because some agents or editors do not accept queries that are, like if you're doing multiple queries, like some agents and editors don't accept manuscripts that you're also sending out, that you're simultaneously sending out to other agents or editors. So you have to do one at a time, and they might not get back to you for a while. So you query to as many people as you possibly can, until some, reputable traditional publishing. Reputable, that's keyword, because there's a lot of publishers out there that'll promise to publish your novel, but nobody will buy it. You want to find somebody who's sold books to reputable publishers, who has helped writers become successful and earn them enough money. It's like these are the things you got to think about and so it's like you spend all this time writing and polishing a manuscript. Why would you skimp on the editing? Why would you skimp on, okay, and here we go to, this is the publishing, publish, so that's query manuscript. So there's a whole process to querying, and then to agents, editors, this may even be like trusted longtime friend in the industry. So that's a different thing. I don't really have anybody like that, but somebody who could then get it to an agent or an editor. You know, so it's like somehow you want to get your manuscript in the front of the eyeballs of an agent or an editor. And so that's a whole process. I have to finish my draft first. So that's like kind of my goal, is to actually finish a draft. And not just, think too much about the future process. The revision process and getting a finished manuscript is really going to be the most important part. This querying part for publishing, that's for traditional. And for self-publish, you're going to want to get professional editor. Probably going to be like $2,000 or more. You want to get a professional cover artist. That's probably going to be like $500. And then you want to get, you're going to have a solid marketing plan. Which I do not think most people should self-publish until they have until they have like an established market. Or until they've done it for a while. And obviously, yeah, you can get started, but if you have a whole novel you've been working years on, why just slap it up on Amazon as a practice instead of going through the process of getting it into a solid manuscript that you can query, and have a professional team of people take care of these things. Marketing plan. So, these are probably for people who've already published. These are probably for people who've already published. Or unless you have a very, very, very strong understanding of what you need to do and you're willing to go through this. If you're not willing to go through this, I don't think self-publishing is for you. And this is stuff I've learned from Brandon Sanderson. He has worked with people who've gone through self-publishing, and he's traditionally published. In one of his lectures, he's had people come in, talk about self-publishing, and he's talked about what he's learned from his self-published friends. Self-publishing is not easy. Neither is traditional publishing. Nothing is going to be easy about this. People go into self-publishing for the wrong reasons. You go into self-publishing because you want total control over your novel. You want to have you're the publisher. You want complete ownership. You don't want to have to deal with a traditional publisher. But for some people, I think a lot of people might be more cut out to working with traditional publishers. In fact, I'm scared to death of being the complete sole responsibility for my product. I'm scared to death of that. I much prefer working with people because you have a trust network. You have people who've got your back. You have people who give you feedback. And a huge part of the revision process, I can add in here, is reading groups or writing groups. Writing groups, and you want to find trusted writing groups. If you don't really want to just find, obviously if you really want to, you could just go to a writing group on a Discord or something, but I really do feel you should really put quality over quantity. Just because something's easy doesn't mean it's better, especially if you're going to be trusting your manuscript with strangers. So you want to find a trusted writing group for beta reading, which involves sending excerpts, small sections with specific questions to be answered by your beta readers. You know, you might get some sigma readers, but, you know. Yeah, also, you know, obviously, if you have a writing group, there's accountability. And there's also just craft sharing and you know, just friends. You know, that's important. I want to find a good writing group of people who write. What the hell? Who writes? You know, various styles. You know, in addition to similar styles as I do, I kind of do sci-fi fantasy, particularly kind of fantasy with sci-fi elements. I kind of had, like, if you want to think like Final Fantasy VII style fantasy, where it's like sort of sci-fi, but like it's still fantasy, like where you have technology integrated but in a magical way, like, you know, so fantasy, people think of fantasy and sci-fi as like a hard genre, when really the difference between fantasy and sci-fi, like the different subgenres of fantasy, it's not just might and magic, you know, sword sorcery. Like fantasy, like superheroes are fantasy, and they do have sci-fi elements. Sci-fi, I think the main difference between fantasy and sci-fi is fantasy treats, you know, the technology and magic, you know, which technology is basically magic, in a way that is like less. I really don't think there's much difference between sci-fi and fantasy, really. The only difference is like how much of like emphasis you put on description of how the magic works. And if your magic works in a very scientific way, like it's just like that's not even part of the story, then I feel like you've got a sci-fi. Like if it's just an element of the setting, so like, but you understand it, and it's like the main part of the story is like, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that go into it. I can't really just speak, you know, generally. But I feel like the main difference is like, you know, usually people use like a hard line between sci-fi and fantasy. They'll say, you know, in fact, I can open up a new note for this. Oop. You know, people talk about sci-fi and fantasy. So I think people like people like to, you know, kind of like the main distinction of sci-fi and fantasy, that sci-fi is technology, tech, and politics. And where and obviously these kind of intermingle a lot, I think. Like I really don't think it's as hard and dry as people say it is. Interchangeable. Intermeshed. There we go. Tech and like the main like bullet points for sci-fi and fantasy are the tech and politics, swords and sorcery, and maybe not literally, but these are all like symbolically. Like symbolically tech and politics, and symbolically swords and sorcery, like that. But that's not really like what, like it could be literally, obviously, symbolically. But like if you notice like something like X-Men or The Flash or Supergirl, they obviously you have intermeshed themes. But like when people think about sci-fi, they think about tech and politics. I would say Supergirl is more swords and sorcery, because it's about like finding the bad guy. There's like superpowers, that's sorcery. Swords, like that's literally like beating people up. And there's like some kind of heroic, like here's another one, is heroic. Like, these are obviously like I said, intermeshed. But like, and these are themes that could be in any genre. But people think of fantasy, they think of heroic. People think of sci-fi, they tend to think, let's see. A lot of the sci-fi stuff I've read and seen tends to be about like righting wrongs. I don't know, this may be a hot take, but I think it's more like righting wrongs. Like you'll have like let's see, if we have tech and politics, there'll be a sci-fi story. I don't want to like give any specifics and spoil stories, but you'll have a story where there's some kind of conglomerate, like overlord, that like takes care of, like it controls everybody's way of life. And then you have a character who's had enough of that shit and starts like integrating themselves, like poking through the fabric of society and like causing problems and trying to get to the bottom of it, try to get all the way up to the top to change everything. Like that's a huge theme in a lot of sci-fi. It's obviously not the only one. These are just, things I've noticed. These just things I've noticed about sci-fi and fantasy. But heroic, like, but it could also be about righting wrongs. So, I would say heroic / let's see. Also, I had some music queued up I was going to play. There we go. Yeah, hopefully that's not too loud or too quiet. Yeah, let's go. Let's see. And just remember, just to be clear, I'm not like laying this out to like say that this is the only way that it works. I'm just trying to, build a framework for myself, for my stories, the stories I want to write. Okay, so if we go here, let me just... Okay. Testing, 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 testing. Okay. Testing, 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 testing. Okay. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, we just got some no copyright music. A couple hours worth, actually. Yeah, getting in the mood. I need some food that rhymes. We should write poetry. By the way, poetry doesn't mean rhyming. There's different techniques of poetry. And there's like different things to explore with poetry. Not just like... And also, you know, poetry can have a lot of structure, and I think it's important to practice poetry by using that structure, but also don't limit yourself to only doing something a single way, but don't go so far that you only do things like the only way, like, you know, don't limit yourself. You know, do things both however you want, but also do it by the structure. You know, go back and forth. Don't limit yourself. Don't lock yourself in. Like, I'm writing down these things. An example of somebody who's going about writing in a very bad way, in my opinion, would be somebody who locked themselves in to what sci-fi and fantasy were. You know, like, there is no lock. Unless your character's name is Locke. Like in my novel, one of the characters' name is Locke. It's like John Locke, though, so it's like different. Okay, what are we doing? I was getting some food. I need to get like a, you know, something to eat, and I'm gonna make another coffee, I think. So I will be back. Okay. And also, let's get back to. Okay. Okay, we're back. Somewhat. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited. And we're gonna get some good short stories going. I'm excited. But I have a couple of ideas I never really fully fleshed out. I don't even remember what those are right now. So we're just gonna kind of get started. Let's see, ideas. Here's one that I wanted to write, which was mythical beast, animal control. Animal control / rescue, I guess. It's an idea of like a... I usually come up with a few words of a story idea. Like for my novel I'm working on, Evenstar, I came up with 4 words. Steampunk, bounty hunter, superhero. Oh, well, I guess that's 3 words. And that basically sums up the entire story. Like mythical beast, animal control / rescue. Or animal control. I guess animal rescue sounds better. Mythical beast, animal rescue. That sounds like a nice thing. What ya eating? I got a peanut butter jelly sandwich and some coffee, and we're ideating. So mythical beast, animal rescue has been an idea that I've had in my head. I've drafted a few scenes already. It's kind of in a setting where there's multi-dimensional space travel. And just think Monsters, Inc., but instead of going through doors to scare children, they basically go through various places throughout history, like, you know, because there's temporal mechanics involved. So they're basically like a mix between Star Trek universe, 30th century or whatever it is, which that's where like the temporal time prime directive, you know, the way that time works, in some different mechanism. There's different ways time mechanics work. I guess I can continue after I finish eating. Classic. Gramdolph. Oh, it's like Gandalf, but a graham cracker. That's awesome. Gramdolph. So I guess it's good to kind of go into an aside here. Temporal mechanics. So there's the one I think is like the one that makes the most sense. Is fluctuating. I'm gonna call it fluctuating time. Fluctuating mechanics. So fluctuating, meaning time is not set in stone. So you can do something, but somebody can come back and change something, and it doesn't affect the rest of the timeline. It creates like a new timeline. So it's like you have, but they're all connected. And so this works with like, you know, this usually works in conjunction with like multiverse. But it's kind of like a combination of mechanics where you have, okay, so like this is the timeline. Let's see, let's go down here. So this is if this is the timeline, the main timeline, if there's like a main timeline with like the theoretical end, which apparently nobody has ever reached and will never, and there's the theoretical beginning. So this is main timeline. There's like a central timeline, but you can go through different, there's different spots where you can go and they can be changed. Where everything's kind of in flux. So if you were to like be if you're like, this is 2022, let's just say that if you were here, this is where you are, and you can time travel. Let's say you can time travel to flux position. There's different flux positions, and the flux positions can move. Yeah, I am recovering well, Mondo. There's still stitches, but they, those will eventually heal up and flake away. I still have to be really careful. Several more weeks before I can do any heavy lifting or heavy exercise. But I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Okay. So we have flux positions, which flux positions can change depending on how the timeline changes. So if you go in and you go back in time to a flux position, and that flux position is currently at 1974 or something, and then you change something, change something, like you bought stocks or something. Well, then now you've adjusted the main timeline, but you've created a new flux. Timeline affected. And then it creates like a new flux over here. And you could always reset it back to the way it was. This is the main temporal mechanics that I think are like the most likely to exist, where time is not set in stone and you could always change it back because it's a living, breathing thing. In Flash, they kind of treat it like this, but it never ends up being the same. Well, I guess it is. It's kind of in flux. So I guess this is examples in fiction of this examples in fiction of this mechanic. One of them would be the Flash, at least the one on CW, but the Flash. Where there's well, Flash and DC's Legends, etc. I really like this mechanic because it makes the most sense. That like you have a main timeline. There may or may not be a multiverse. May or may not be. There might be multiple timelines. You never know. And maybe if there are multiple timelines, those flux positions are like bridges. But, if you only have one timeline, if you have single universe theory or whatever, then I think this makes sense, where you have like a theoretical beginning and a theoretical end, and then you have flux positions where you can travel between these positions. And there's inside the flux position, so we zoom in. Here's a flux position, and then you have the timeline. That's pretty much, you can't alter anything in here, but this is a window, window of change. You have like a window of change that you can change things in here, and it won't destroy the universe. Right? So it's like you can change things within those flux positions, and so you can make them larger or smaller depending on how the timeline is affected. If you affect the timeline too much, you start making too many flux positions, and maybe you'll start like it'll be chaos. But in our theory is that there's entropy theory. I guess entropy theory is that I guess all good things must end, but also quantum mechanics, quantum uncertainty can create something from nothing. So given an infinite amount of time, it's eventually inevitable for everything to change. But the further, okay, so it's like the further you get away from your starting point, the more likely something can spontaneously change. Infinite time. Likelihood of change. Entropy. And entropy just keeps going, and the likelihood keeps going the more no, I think it's the opposite. So as entropy goes forward, likelihood of change goes down. So this goes up, entropy goes up, likelihood of change goes down, but across infinite amount of time, eventually change will happen. only across infinite amount of time. So it might be bajillions of years, Googles of years. There'd be no observers anyway, so it's not like it matters. But that's a completely different topic. But I think it relates to the idea of fluctuating timeline. So if you have these flux positions where you can enter them, if you change anything, it won't change anything on the timeline. You'd have to do something extremely, extremely difficult to change the main timeline. So these flux positions exist so you can go back and visit certain parts of history. And you'd have to make major changes in order to affect the timeline. I feel like that's the most realistic version of temporal mechanics. Where it's like a living, breathing thing. And that you can't just go back in time wherever you want. And you can't just go back in time and, like, you know, buy some stocks without severely affecting the timeline. Like, there's a lot of things you can do that won't affect the timeline. But if you do certain things, it'll start breaking things. And things will change in a drastic way. New flux positions will fluctuate. They'll change, or they'll grow, or get smaller. And I guess if you wanted to destroy the universe, you'd have to go all the way back to the beginning. And in order to get to the theoretical end, you'd have to go to the theoretical beginning first. And do something so egregious that it'll destroy the entire timeline and bring it to the end. So I don't think time ends. I think it just keeps going. In order to end it, you'd have to get to unprecedented universe situations. I don't know. But Mythical Beast Animal Rescue relies on multiverse. Multiverse flux. Temporal mechanics. And it's the idea is that there is a group, sort of like Men in Black. It's sort of like Men in Black. It's basically Men in Black. But like there's certain beasts that travel between those flux positions, and they create rifts. It's basically DC's DC's Legends of Tomorrow, but not really. It's kind of complicated. Like, obviously it could be similar to things. My exact implementation of things are specific to my style of writing, my characters. And it's a different, it pulls on different threads, and it goes different directions. But I'm just saying, like, the idea is basically DC's Legends of Tomorrow. But the main difference it's about well, I mean, I guess if I wanted to use broad strokes, human rights. I mean, it's a focus on how we treat people and what rights do they have, and what rights do we have to limit others' rights. Like, that's the main difference in this story, Mythical Beast Animal Rescue. Obviously, it's a working title. The old switcheroo, or whatever. The old switcheroo. So, character, forgot her name already. Character, main character, is part of the status quo. Part of the establishment. But she learned something that makes her question it. I like to write female main characters question everything. I tend to write female main characters. Well, I am female, but I do write male characters as well. In fact, the main character to my the first novel I ever attempted that's part of the same universe as Evenstar, Uriel, and it's a lot of characters based on multiple mythologies. I'm kind of pulling from, like, you know, Abrahamic religion mythology a lot, but trying to make it in a way that's not biblical. Because I'm not very religious, but I do like mythology, and I think there's a lot of mythology to be found that's not really unexplored. I'm anime, like, or manga series like Berserk, for example, really explored what I'm thinking of really well. Like the ideas of heaven and hell and angels and stuff and demons, in a way that is digestible and relatable. I really don't think that most people, you know, people seem to have an agenda when they talk about mythology. They'll talk about, like, Abrahamic religions in a way that, you know, is like, this is how you're supposed to live your life and anybody else is wrong. And it's like, you can take that part out of it and just look at the mythology itself. It's actually pretty rich and has like a lot of good stuff to explore. So I'm naming, like, the characters at least after archangels, like Uriel, Raziel, Ariel. You know, that's actually, they're a family. Uriel and Ariel are brothers, and their dad is Raziel in the story. There's also an Athena, so it's like I pulled like to pull from different mythologies for my characters. And also, I'm not trying to lock myself into a existing mythology. I'm just drawing from them and making my own. I think it's kind of, people pigeonhole themselves in. They come up with, like, oh, I'm basing this on, you know, Norse mythology and Vikings. And it's like, okay, well, you know, those already exist. You kind of lock yourself in. Like, obviously you can write it in an exciting way, but I really do think it's important to, like, not lock yourself into, like, the exact thing that you're trying to do. Because if you lock yourself into, I want to write a story about Vikings, like, okay, well, that kind of limits you to, like, the aesthetic of your story. Like, how about you take the idea of Vikings and you make it into something else? That's my philosophy on it anyway. I like to make new things. I don't like to just... I should try some fan fiction eventually, but... I'd rather make new things than do fan fiction, honestly. Like... You know, I don't like locking myself into pre-existing canon. If I'm gonna deviate from canon, which if I was doing fan fiction, I would have to remain like adhere to, because I would see, like, if I'm just gonna deviate from the canon, then why not write something original? Like, so it's like, either I'm gonna write fan fiction in canon, or I'm gonna write original stories. Like, I kind of don't have an in between. She learns something that makes her question everything, and then she becomes the enemy. And how I resolve that is yet to be seen. But that's basically the flow of the story there. Gramdolf. Mondo Prime. Yeah, so Mythical Beast Animal Rescue is one of the projects on the docket, I guess. Let's see. Let me just make a new notes page. Ideas. There's another one that I had. What was it? What was I even thinking about? Mythical Beast Animal Control. There was another one I had. Well, first of all, there's soul gems. Soul gems. Not to be confused with... I might have to change the name eventually. Not to be confused with soul gems from the Avengers. But basically, it's a... It's actually like a board. It's a tabletop. It's like a board game. It's actually a board game I invented, but it has a story to it. So I want to write the story to Soul Gems, and that's already on GitHub. It's already on GitHub. I have like the basic outline of the game already on GitHub, but I want to write a story for it, and it's basically Soul Guardians. Soul Guardians exist in an outside universe. It's like a spirit realm or whatever. They can they feed and manipulate, feed on and manipulate soul energy, which is all souls emit a renewable energy that can be siphoned by guardians. Board game storyline. So it's like a board/card game. Sort of like Dominion. But like with a... Right now I'm using a chess set, but it can pretty much be defined, the map can be defined. It's D&D style. Oop, that's not how you draw it. That's not how you do it. How do you do an ampersand? What the f... What does an ampersand look like? What the fuck? Oh, okay, yeah. What? Okay. There we go. kind of like D&D style. Yeah, so with chess board and pieces. Yeah, so that, I mean, the actual mechanics of the game is not really important for the story, but it's basically soul guardians. They imbue the soul energy into talismans, such as chess pieces, and they have invented a game that must be agreed upon. It's kind of like, I guess, like No Game, No Life or whatever. No Game, No Life. It's an anime. Where that's a world where all games, everything must be solved through games, and that the game must be agreed upon completely by both parties before they play, and follow the rules, like, 100%. Yeah, I don't really want to think about the story too much. I'm trying to figure out like what I want to work on today. I could just start writing. That's usually kind of like I said earlier. I kind of just do what I call do what I call outline scenes, which I basically just improvise on the spot. I'm kind of like, procrastinating a bit. And I'm probably going to turn off my second monitor. I'm not going to look at chat while I'm writing, but okay. Oh God. Okay. Oof. That's a good name. Christy. Maybe not pouring. She didn't have anything else to worry about. Christy found herself frantically flipping through the collection of documents. She didn't even know what she was. She didn't know what she was looking for, but there wasn't much time to find it. She didn't even know. Okay. Let's see. As if she didn't have anything else to worry about. As if she didn't have anything else to worry about, Christy found herself frantically flipping through the collection of documents. She didn't even know what she was looking for, but there wasn't much time to find it. The entire pile fell to the floor, and she groaned. She started to pick them up, and there it was, the formula. She almost tore it in half as she picked it up from under the chair. Someone knocked on the door, and she hit her head on the underside of the desk. Frantic, she gathered all of the papers and stuffed them into her backpack before unlocking the door. Now we're gonna have a new character coming in. Okay, 1, 2. Okay. Just I usually separate paragraphs by a line. Oh. What the fuck? Oh. Oops, what did I do? Okay, okay, so that's 1. Okay. Oh. Oops. And that's 1 line, 2 lines. There we go. Oh no, 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 no. There we go. 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th line. There we go. I don't know. Actually, I don't know why I separated that. I don't need to do that. 2, 3. Yeah, just do 1, 2, 3. It's always because double space. You go 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th line. But let's take a quick break. Check in with you guys. Anybody who's still here, of course. Not the best stream. Hey, Space Ducks! Are you recovering well? Okay. Oh, I already read that. Space Ducks. We're like working on some short fiction. I have a new writing workflow that I've built. I have multiple workflows, okay? I built a new writing workflow for my PC. Besides I have multiple workflows for different mediums. So I usually, okay, so that we could actually go through, using this new workflow, we could actually go in and describe, you know, get super meta and actually describe the workflow. So we have workflow. So my existing workflows, you know, obviously LibreOffice. I have a workflow for involving timestamping to headers. easy navigation. So the way I do this is I'll separate writing by section. Novel, of course. Let's see. I'll have the novel, you know, with the different sections in a header, and then I'll have outline, with the different sections. I'll have notes, and in the notes, I'll have character. I'll keep a catalog of every single character. Every time I write a new character, I'll add it into the list of characters. Character plot. I'll actually do it in between setting. So every time I add a new clue, like, you know, this will be like, okay, wait. You know, this will be separated in, this will be separated into main, support, and extras slash mentions. So they might mention characters who are important, but they don't actually appear in the story except for being mentioned. So then for setting, I will have places, technology, tech, magic, if it applies. And government. And I usually don't like work on these too much, but it's this, if I do write about them, I'll put them there. And the thing is like I'll put everything I write will end up in this document. So anything I write in this workflow, in, you know, in my Paint program, in this document, okay. Everything I write will end up in this document. So everything else is going to be stuff that's not digital. Or if it is digital, it's not in a format that would work in the main document. Main. This is the main document, and the one that I work on. Once everything's written, this is the document I copy and use for the revision. Because I gather everything up and I put it in there. So after I get... I have multiple other ones. There's handwriting, which I've been doing a lot more lately, and I think it's really good, especially for the early phase of the drafting process. Mainly early draft, because I need to come up with a structure and all that. Handwriting, both paper and pen and digital. Tablet. Input. Like I'm doing right now. And then I have typewriter. It's actually a main tool I use. Once I start getting typing, most of it will be on typewriter nowadays. Obviously, I don't limit myself. I might just type directly into this document if that's what I feel like. I don't like to limit myself. Sometimes I might like to handwrite, but I'm not one of those people who says, oh, I only handwrite or I only use the typewriter. And it's like, no, that's an excuse. You're just not willing to work. That's like your job is to write, not to get yourself pigeonholed into one way of writing. Like it's an excuse people use. They say like, oh, I only write if I have my typewriter and if it's a full moon and if I have my cup of tea on my special writing desk. Like, no, come on. Write however the hell you can get it done. Don't make excuses. Typewriter, that's usually a main one I'll do. And I have a good format for that, actually. So I will... every page, I need to actually kind of like... Let me like kind of collate this. I don't know how to quite draw this. So I'll have a page. This is like I type stuff. And then I have another page. And I have another page. So I'll write it. I'll write. And then I write. And then when I'm done, done for day. I'll be done for the day. And then I'll go back and I put these stack upside down. I mean, not upside down. Stack writing side down as I write after each page. And get started on the next. ASAP. Like, I don't want to stop the flow. Once I get writing, I don't want to stop until I'm done writing for that session. Hey, Attic Bat. Attic Bat says, I've noticed that whenever I want to write something creative, I fall into a mental block super quick when just writing in Word. It's interesting how you go so as far as to using a typewriter to write. Is it a must-have? And if so, then what typewriter would you recommend? I wouldn't say it's a must-have unless you really want to use it. So I would say, if you really want to get one, I recommend. Okay, let me just. Oops, I needed to do something else. Let's see. I have like a new workflow and I really like it now. But here we go. Okay, yeah. Oh, I forgot how to adjust the scale. Oh, it's not important. Let me just zoom in. Notice that whenever I want to write something creative, I fall into a mental block super quick when just writing in Word. It's interesting how you go as far as use a typewriter to write. Is it a must-have? And if so, then what typewriter would you recommend? So I don't think it's a must-have. Let's just do. What is going on? Okay. There. I don't think it's a must-have, but if you really want to use it, I would say get one. But if I wanted to recommend one, let me just, I'll Google the one that I have. This is the one I have. I think it's from 1958. In fact, oh, here we go. Oh, no, 1948. This is the one. Yeah, this is the exact one I have. It's from 1948. Oh, let me just... Ah! Oh God, I keep feeling like I keep pressing. I'm getting used to the stylus. I have a different input mode for when I'm just browsing. Browsing stuff. Yeah, I have the Royal Quiet Deluxe 1948. I would try to find one on like eBay or something like that. This is the one I have. You can buy ink ribbons on Amazon. I would highly recommend not getting an electric typewriter. I mean, the whole point of getting a typewriter is that you don't need electronics. The reason to use a typewriter or to handwrite is so that you can do it without the internet, without a computer. That's if you're gonna write on your computer, then write on your computer. Like that's the way I see it. Is that if I'm going to write on my computer, I'll just write on my computer. I don't do any half measures. If I'm going to write and I want no distractions, I'll use my typewriter or handwrite. Like I go all the way. Get a manual typewriter, and you can get refurbished ones, or you can get even, I think some companies even make new ones. But make sure they're mechanical only. They're not electric. Don't get electric. They're called manual typewriters. You can get a portable. This is called the Royal Quiet Deluxe portable manual typewriter. It's not super portable, but back in the day, in 1948, it was pretty portable. In fact, it came in like a briefcase sort of case that kind of felt like it was like a saxophone case or something. Mine, unfortunately, I was keeping it in my car, and some of it got wet. And yeah, see, I have a case like this. It still works, and pretty much the main reason I want to use it is just to keep the base, because you can put it on your lap without having to have because you can put it on your lap if you want to use it like a laptop. It's kind of cool. So I have the bottom part of the case works. It's just this part, the top part. The top part kind of like there's it kind of like got wet and like I stepped on it. I could probably get a new case though, but I would say to get I'm kind of biased. This is the only one I've used, really, as far as manual typewriters go. I had an electric typewriter as a kid, but I would not recommend getting an electric typewriter, because so the workflow that you're gonna have, or the workflow that I have at least, the workflow that I have is after I was explaining it here. Stack with the writing side down after each page and get started on the next one ASAP. As soon as I'm done for the day, or done for that session at least, I'll go back to the first page, or done for the session, I guess, not for the day. What happened? Oh. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like not see, I'm trying to get like the technology out of the way. That's working with this stuff done first session. Usually like for like a couple minutes at a time. Or do a couple minutes, or like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Like don't write in unless you really feel like writing for hours at a time without stopping. Obviously don't stop yourself, but usually like I write in short bursts, is usually I write after I'm done. So I'll have them stacked upside down, I don't, so no, not writing side down, writing side up. Writing side up. And then, so then, I'll go back and I'll have, you know, then I'll have it ordered this way. And then how many that is, and then the first. And so I'll have the writing, I'll then have, you know, these all have writing side up. I haven't numbered them yet. So that's why I put them down one at a time, starting with the first one, and I do it writing side up, so that I can then turn turn the stack upside down. So I have a stack here. Let me just, my drawing is terrible. I'll have a stack. Probably not that big, but I'll have a stack of writing after I turn it upside down, and then I go flip it over, and that's page 1. And then I put 1 on the bottom. This is really important. Then you put the next one on top of it. You put the next one on top of it, and that's page 2. And then you do it again. And then that's page 3 until you, let's say you did 3 pages, and that's the last page for the session, at least, because you might write more that day. So then what I do is I'll get a page. Let's get the page here. Here's the page zoomed in. I'll have a page, and here's all the writing, and I'll just number it 1, and then the date 2022-03-06 SUN for Sunday. And if I'm really want to be specific, and I want to, and I'll write the time. I'll write the time. Only if I write, because if I write multiple mediums per day, I'll write the time when I number it. So if I number it at 12 at 2 p.m., then I'll write 1400 or something. Because I might write more that day, and I want to be able to differentiate between when I put it into my main document, in this main document, when I put it in the main document, I want to be able to order them by time and date. Time, date, and to make headers. So I'll divide off my main document transcriptions, because I'll transcribe this later into the main document. It's important that you don't just write in one place, and that you have one place to put everything into, and you transcribe, which takes more time and effort, but it's important, and it works, and it helps you. It's a process. It's a part of the process that I have. You see fair enough. I see the attraction in using a typewriter now. I'll definitely be on the lookout for one in secondhand. Yeah, look out for one. Find one that feels good for you. And I would say you can find one on eBay, or there might be a specialty shop you can find. Make sure that it feels good to use. I just kind of flipped a coin, or I kind of rolled the dice and just bought one on eBay for $80 back in 2014. After I wrote the first 50,000 words to my novel in NaNoWriMo in 2014. Now I'm writing some short stories on stream, but I'm writing a novel off stream. So I'll put the time in, because when I number them. And it's important that when I stack this, I start with 1 on the bottom, because that's always going to be the last. You'll always know, no matter how many you add. So you might add 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You might add 20 pages, but you'll always know when you stack it inside your folder. Because what I do then is I then put it into a folder. If I can draw it. Folder. Where I have all of them in, and I just put them in the earliest one. I have it in descending order, I have it in ascending order. So I'll have the first one on the bottom. I always put the first one on the bottom, and it's important, because otherwise you're going to be looking frantically you're going to be looking frantically for how many pages you wrote that day, or you know, like you can just order it by like every time you see the number 1, you know that that's the end of each day. And I know it sounds really weird, but it works out really well if you put the first one on the bottom of each writing set of each day. So I get a pen to write this on. I don't write, it distracts me. I used to type it in every time, but if you're in the middle of writing, you just want to put a second page in the typewriter. You don't want to like interrupt your writing. You want to just like take the page out, put it down, you know, somewhere safe where it's not going to blow away or anything, and then put in the new page and start typing. And you can do it pretty fast with enough practice. Typewriting is really good. You can get really good at typewriting, really efficient. You know, it's been used for like a very long time throughout, you know, people's writing careers, in the 1900s. Through like the 1960s, like I would say even the 80s. Once computers and word processors became a thing, people started to use computers more. But I still think it's very important to be able to typewrite if you want to focus on your writing, and not limiting yourself just to using the typewriter, not limiting yourself just to using the computer, not limit yourself just to using handwriting. Like use everything. Write on a freaking napkin if you can, if you have to. Put 1 on the bottom, and that way, like if you have 15 pages written that day from the typewriter, or for whatever source that you stack in a folder. Usually, I save the folder for typewriters. I use a notebook for handwriting. So here's for my journal, but like I have a notebook that I use for handwriting. You know, for that's just pretty obvious. Like, you know, it just goes left to right. You know, that's pretty obvious. But what I'll do once it's in, I'm kind of going all over the place. You date and number them with ink, handwritten ink. Number them, you know, each, and then put 1 on the bottom, and then you just stack them face up. You stack them face up until you get to the last page. So if like you'll have a stack. And let's say you wrote 5 pages that day. Well, now you have 5, and it says like 2022, you know, like you have the date or whatever. 2022, 03, 06, Sunday, and you'll write 1400. Because like you wrote it at 2 p.m. And then you put that into your folder. And then you stack those folders, you stack those piles of pages, the newest one first, the newest one on top. So that if you want to see your oldest writing, you have to go back to the beginning. And I know it's kind of weird, but it makes sense. Because then what you're going to do eventually is you're going to turn that folder upside down. So folder upside down. And then you take each page, and that you're gonna, and then you, what you do is you take like, maybe you want to like queue up 5 pages, and you write like and what I do is I'll write like a red circle. Like a red circle on each of the pages that are to be transcribed. And it's in the same order. So it's like I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's say that was 1 day of writing. And so I'll write a red circle on every single page. Actually, no, right? Like I'll write a red circle, like after every single page, after I do this on every page. Like I'll do this, I'll write a red circle. And then what I'll do is I'll then go through that by turning it upside down, going to the last page that has an empty circle, and I'll transcribe it, you know, onto my computer, you know, typing. And then after each page is done, I then draw a blue circle, I mean a blue check mark. Well, I like draw I basically just draw a blue circle that kind of looks like a check mark, but I just do that. Like, you know, if I'm gonna, like, you know, change it. Oops. What the hell is that? See, I need to learn how to make. So I'll write a red circle, and then like whenever I'm done typing, transcribing from the page to the document, to the main document, then I'll just like do a circle with like a little whoosh over it. It's kind of cool. I know it's kind of weird that I do these things, but it's a little thing that I've done. You know, it's like it looks like it's not like quite a check mark. It's just another circle on top of it. And if there's blue, that means I don't have to go. I go to the first one that I've seen blue on, and then I'll go to the first one with red, and then start doing that again. And I gradually, the more writing I get, I might do it the same day. I might do it like a week later. That's why it's good to add the. That's why it's good to add the red mark. Every time you do this, so that it's just there. And so, like, you know, you go to the last one. You go down the list. You turn your thing upside down, and you go to the first one with just a red mark without blue. And then you know, you might do it the same day. You might do it a week later or a month later. But it's a part of the process, because it puts it into your main document that you can then work with when you go into the revision stage. And this is pretty much, I have a really good system for my LibreOffice document now, or Microsoft Word, or whatever you do. Obviously, this is my system that I use. Whatever you use, do whatever works. Don't limit yourself. I mean, I encourage you to try it. But, you know, do whatever works, because, you know, if this is something I came up through my own writing and just doing things. I haven't actually finished a draft. That's the problem. I'm procrastinating. But that's kind of why I started this short story goal of, you know, starting to write some short stories. And I already wrote like a paragraph earlier. To a short story I just came up with on the spot here. You know, improvising is usually how I start out the drafting process. I'll improvise just stuff off the top of my head, and then I'll think about it later, and then I'll refine it later. Space Duck says, "Dear Rebecca, I got me two questions for you. First, what is the software you're using to draw your writing plans? And second, what is the music you're listening to as it sounds nice?" Well, right now, so I'm using, I found I was going to use Krita, but it was just too heavy. I really don't need a super heavy paint program. So I found PaintSci V2. Paint Tool Sci version 2, and I found it online. You know, it's a pretty cool software. It's not, it's like a preview version. It's like not, it's pretty functional. I don't need super, like, all the bells and whistles. So it's like a free version of Paint Tool Sci. I really don't need all the bells and whistles. I found a background that I downloaded a texture of just like some seamed paper. Otherwise I just have otherwise it's just a, you know, kind of a grayish background that I use. But I kind of put some opacity on the paper so it doesn't look super bright. And then for notes, I have a texture in the background as well. Kind of makes it a little bit more grainy, because I feel like that's kind of fun to work with for like note taking. And then what I do is I'll make notes, and then when I want to make more notes, just make a new layer. and of course I order them in the same way, you know, because it's like the same way. I put the newest one on top. You know, that's why I really like putting things in ascending order. Where you put the newest on top. Because that's how the program works itself. By the way, I need to put all the dates. So this is 2022, 03, 06, Sunday, and I started 2 hours ago. So that would be at, 2.5 hours ago. That'd be at 1200. Actually, no, I would say that I started these notes at 1200. I'm just gonna like kind of make some arbitrary increments. Normally I would just, you know, type them in as needed. It's not really too important for this. It's important to separate them in my mind. But normally I would put in the exact time, you know, as I make a new layer. But this, I would say 13, 15. No, I would say this one's at 1400. Okay, oh, yeah. Because as I write more throughout multiple days, I want to be able to set each day into a folder. Like I'm done for the day. When I'm done for the day, the next day, the first thing I'll do is I'll make a new folder of layers, and I'll put all those layers inside that folder so I can minimize it and get started on the next day. And I guess I would just, I guess I could just make a new folder for the day right now. Yeah, and so there you have, like, you know, everything's kind of organized. I like being organized with my writing. Because you're going to have to. You know, this is for short stories. Short stories are, you know, shorter and easier to manage. But I need a system that scales, and that's why I created the system that I have. Is because it's one thing to just be able to write, but you need to be able to work with the writing, and that's why I created this structure. Is so that it can scale. I can open up in the main document. The reason I timestamp them and partition them out by you know, chapter and by date and, you know, like all that kind of stuff, is I'll put everything that I write in certain times. I'll put them into a header, and I can quickly navigate the entire document from a navigation panel. You know, you hit F5 and it opens up a panel on the left, kind of like this. You know, I'm kind of developing a system for this, for the handwritten stuff, similar to how I do this. Like you open up a panel and you can just go through the entire document, even if it's like 200,000 words. Because when you're writing a novel, you're going to go upwards of 100,000 words. And you have to be able to work with that. You can't just, like, you know, use the scroll bar. Because if you start writing any significant amount, you're going to quickly find out that it's going to be really hard to manage once you get to a certain amount of words. Like, I found that out during NaNoWriMo. And that's when I wrote 50,000 words to my novel Evenstar to get it started. And that was 2014. Oh, and the music I'm listening to is some. Normally, when I'm writing, I like listening to epic music, but those aren't DMCA safe. Just a second. So I'm listening to some medieval fantasy music by Unwind Station. It's no copyright music. And I believe it's ran by a woman. I don't think she I don't think she mentions herself by name or anything, but you can support her on I heard her voice on a video, so I'm assuming she's a woman. She has a Patreon, Unwind Station, if you want to support her. I like to find stuff for stream. Usually I listen to Rainwave, OC Remix. The music that you almost always hear on my channel, on my stream, is going to be from Rainwave Station on the OC Remix channel, which are user created video game soundtrack remixes on ocremix.com. Not .com. I think it's org. ocremix.net. Is it OC Remix? Let me just Google it. Jeez. What happened? I'm trying to Google it. What the hell? What? No, not .com. OC Remix. There. ocremix.org, yeah. So this is all completely free. It's user-created remixes. You know, it's from video game music, but they're covers, and, you know, you will never get DMCA'd on... what the hell happened? Oh, what is going on? Oh, I got the button stuck. Yeah, okay. You will never get DMCA'd for OC Remix. It's very rare if it does happen. It might be only for a few seconds because, like, maybe YouTube thinks it's something else, or Twitch thinks it's like it's like maybe it was actually maybe the one time it happened was because maybe it heard music like out the window or something. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't even from that. What is going on? Scales and arpeggios.zip. The fuck? The fuck was that all about? Did I accidentally click something? I don't know. Yeah, I played OC Remix on past streams, but right now I'm checking out Unwind Station, which has no copyright music, and they have multiple playlists. Oop. You know, some Christmas style music, Christmas music, steampunk style music, sci-fi, gaming music. Most that they have is in medieval fantasy, hip hop, jazz, and lo-fi and chill. Looks like they're starting to branch out from just epic music and fantasy music. I usually listen to epic music when I'm writing, especially lately. So I'll listen to these, but these aren't DMCA safe. These are all copyrighted. I mean, I'd have to get direct permission from the authors, and there's so many different authors in these mixes, so is murder healthy yet? No, it's not. Murder's never healthy, Jess. You crazy. Jess, you crazy? You in a crazy mood today? Did you wake up and choose violence? Oh, I mean, that's impeccable logic. The dead can't get unhealthy because they're dead. That sounds like logic. Trainwrecks is buying artesian bills. What Pokemon got Cutie Cinderella banned? What the fuck? Oh, Reddit banned. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna find that out later. That's for later. That's for after I'm done working on some writing and stuff. Yeah, so I mean it's important to have a good workflow. But like what I do is as soon as I finish writing typewritten stuff, I'll start with the last page of the day is always going to be on top of that day. So like if I write 2 pages in the morning, I might write more later. I don't have to go back and put them underneath it, which is kind of weird. I just stack it up on top. And so it scales infinitely. And also, if I go through each day, I'll clearly know when the end of a day is, because the last one will always be 1. So if I don't really have to like search through how many pages until I see the next one again or whatever. I can see at the very start, if I have 6 pages that day, it'll start with 6 and I'll know that I have 6 pages to transcribe for that day. Like I'll go so it's like it's very useful in my opinion. I'm really proud of this system. It took me a lot of different trial and error to figure out a good writing system for writing, because when you typewrite or handwrite, you have to have a way of putting it into your main document so that you can work on it, so that you can edit it and revise it. Because obviously, we don't live in the age of typewriters anymore, and typewriting is really only for drafting. It's not for making your finished product, because nowadays people use digital formats. But you don't have to limit yourself to digital format for writing. You can use that for writing and editing, of course. But you can also use typewriting or handwriting, and what you do is you just queue yourself up in a separate process, make a transcription process where all you do is type out what you've written. And that it's kind of an important process in and of itself, because you kind of go through what you've written in like a kind of more in a way that like you're kind of like reviewing what you wrote, and but you're not really thinking about it, you're just typing it in. And I feel, and obviously you'll also have a physical backup that you can keep and look at and work with in case you want to write handwritten notes on something, and if you do, then you have to retranscribe that later if you want. But there's tons of different ways to write. And so of course, obviously handwriting is similar. Like, I'll queue up what I'm going to transcribe, and right now I'm not really in a transcription phase. I'm kind of just writing, and once I get to a stage where I write and I can start adding in transcription, into my daily habits. Right now I'm just trying to build writing. Like, I'm just trying to get the writing habits back, where I'm like working at least a little bit each day on writing. Like for today, like I wrote a bunch of pages of notes for some different ideas, stuff about the craft, and I also wrote a single. I also wrote a paragraph of a scene for a new story, and I'm kind of procrastinating, but that's actually kind of important, to take breaks and to do different stuff between writing bursts, and I like writing in bursts. And in fact, I mean, a lot of it I could probably be writing a lot more if I was, you know, I'm not really there yet. I'm trying to slowly build up habits and then start to improve them. You know, each day I write in my journal every morning, so no matter what I do after that, I've already written something down. Now, whether or not I write on a story is different, but at least I'm writing something, and I'm getting into habits so that when I do start to write on my stories, I already have the daily habit. And so it's like, you want to build these habits. That's really what NaNoWriMo, in my opinion, is the true power of NaNoWriMo, is not to try to get some like draft for like a novel written, but it's to it's to get yourself into habits, not hobbits. What have I done? Okay. Oh, what have I done? What have I done? Okay. Oh. Yeah, so I want to put everything in by date so that I can just minimize those when I'm done. And I obviously have different documents for different projects. And I start out with if I open up my documents here, I have a template that I've already created yesterday. So it starts out with just the paper background and the notes background. So when I'm writing, I just start, you know, writing, and then you know, I make a new folder for the day, and then I put that one into the folder, and then everything that I do for that day is in that folder. So if I want to like write another page, you know, write another page, and then write another page. You know, just keep writing pages. And eventually, every single day, you just write a little bit. You know, even if I write nothing else today, I've already written part of a story, at least the thread of a story. And I've also worked on a couple of my notes for my overall writing process. You know? If you stack them all on top of each other. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Put all your notes on top of each other. That's a new writing method. Just put all your notes on top of each other. It's almost like a work of art. Imagine if I had like an entire year of notes stacked on top of each other. It'd just be like a completely blacked out page. Oof. Oh, okay. Yeah, you know, as much as it sounds like I'm wasting, like in my own head, maybe not what other people think, but in my own head, I constantly feel like I'm wasting time. Like, even though literally, like, I've come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of notes today. Like, I'm extremely, well, maybe not 5, because that's... You know, I've talked about what I was doing. I even wrote like a scene. Yeah, and I think normally I wouldn't have to sign and like date and time every single new layer. I would just, you know, do it all within the one day. And you know that, like, you know, the first one's on the bottom and it goes all the way up. Yeah, I don't know, we might get into another writing segment. I think it is important to separate it. Because basically she dropped all of her... She dropped all the documents. She was looking for something with some kind of formula on it. And she put them in her backpack frantically after unlocking and then unlocked the door. And now we don't know what happens next. Okay, and Paul. Right with the chat hidden. You're right with the door closed. Okay. We have plenty of time to talk in between writing sessions. Okay. Looks like I developed some more ideas for this character in this story. Let's see. So far, as if she didn't have anything else to worry about, Christy found herself frantically flipping through the collection of documents. She didn't even know what she was looking for, but there wasn't much time to find it. The entire pile fell to the floor, and she groaned. She started to pick them up, and there it was, the formula. She almost tore it in half as she picked it up from under the chair. Someone knocked on the door, and she hit her head on the underside of the desk. Frantic, she gathered all of the pages and stuffed them into her backpack before unlocking the door. Paul walked straight for the bar at the end of the room and poured himself a small gin and tonic. Christy frowned at him. "Day drinking, Paul?" He finished the drink, giving her a look. "We missed the deadline, Christy," he said. "The grant will probably go to Sean's team." Christy set the backpack down on the side of the desk and sat down. The grant was all either of them could think about for the past year, and Sean managed to secure the deadline by sticking to well-trodden research. Her team was trying to do something that would fundamentally change the way research was done, allowing direct visual access to people's memories. It would provide data that's never been seen before. So now I got like a premise. Maybe she bit off more than she could chew with this one. Yeah, so it's like now I have like an actual like at first it was just her, looking for documents. Now, a second writing session. Second writing session, and I have like an actual there's stakes. There's like characters who have actual goals and ambitions, and so it's like I've went. This is why I go through this drafting process. So I just kind of improvise scenes, and then I kind of like build up an idea as I go during the drafting process, and then I have something to work with in my outline, and then I can make a better outline and then rewrite it with that new information, because obviously if you're improvising as you go, it's going to be a bit awkward, and you need to have a better draft to work with. So then you kind of do it again, but with the firmer understanding of how things go, and with an understanding of how the scenes flow together, and then you just kind of like improvise a little bit less each time. Like you kind of just go into it with an improvisation, like knowing what you know now. Like you've learned more information, and you use that information to improvise again, and then you just kind of like filter it, like you boil it down each time. Maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or more rewrites. With a short story, that's a little bit more manageable with doing multiple rewrites. With a novel, it's a much longer process. So that's why I want to do these streams where I just write short stories and go through the whole process. And maybe eventually I'll do a whole short story per stream. Wouldn't that be something? If I could write a whole short story from ideation to drafting to revising to publishing on my blog, like that would be a freaking trip. If I could get to that point, I'd be pretty happy. Like that would be something that's a stream. That would be oh, thanks, Jace. Yeah, that would be cool. But we got to do it first. And you get there one step at a time. One word at a time, one sentence at a time, one paragraph at a time, one scene at a time, one short story at a time. And you know, it might take like a week or 2 or 3 or longer just to get one story, and that's okay. And then I do another story, and then I do another story, and we're just gonna do whatever it takes. And obviously I'm not only gonna write on stream, although I kind of want to save these short stories only for stream. I mean, but like, you know, I don't want to limit myself. I have off-stream writing that I work on. I have Even Star, my novel that I'm writing, the second draft to. So now that I have the first draft for Even Star, it's such a huge mess. The plot is stupid, but the characters are developed. And I have a more clear picture of what the plot should be and the setting and what I need to focus on. So now I'm going through the second write through, doing exactly what I just mentioned. Like I improvised a first draft, and now that I have the information, I've kind of like gathered a lot of information, and I'm going through the second draft. But you know, with these short stories, I can go kind of at hyperspeed. I don't have to, like, you know, so I can use that, the information I learn from writing short stories, I could use that as practice, so that I can, you know, go through the whole process at warp speed. And I you know, it's this kind of started out as a non-sci-fi, but like I wrote, every time I write, no matter how normie I try to write, eventually it goes to either sci-fi or fantasy. It's kind of funny. Every single, I tried to write a romance story once. That like got kind of heated with, like, you know, not sexual scenes, but I was trying to write. I don't think I'd make very good erotica, because I just, I don't know. I tried to write some romance, like not erotica, but like slightly more like sexualized writing. But it was more about but like it ended up turning into some kind of like Egyptian like fantasy, like sci-fi. Like it started out with 2 people like about to have sex, and then like I was like, oh cool, I'm doing it. I'm writing a romance. I'm writing an erotica even. And I was like, oh right, I've never really been able to do that. I've always wanted to write that kind of genre, and I failed miserably, because like it just automatically turned into like a sci-fi or a fantasy. Like suddenly there was a magic system, and I'm like what the hell, Rebecca? Jeez. Yeah. Mind visual grant. Yeah, that's the working title of this thing, okay? Mind visual grant. So we have characters, we have Jesse, oh not Jesse, that was another story I was writing. We have Christy. We have Paul. And we have Sean. The 3 characters so far. She seems to be the main character. Support. He seems to be the antagonist, but maybe not. Who knows? Maybe the antagonist. Here, let's see. A research team attempts to secure a grant for developing technology that can provide direct visual representation of people's memory. And, you know, it could be visual memory, but how does it process non-visual info, particularly thought? Because we don't really know. You know, we don't really know exactly how our consciousness works and how our memory works. I've been interested in neuroscience and like neuropsychology lately, so this is kind of like reading about it kind of gives me ideas for this story. Understanding how the brain works and how all that stuff goes. You know, I try not to discount any kind of piece of information because I might end up using it for my writing, at least being inspired by it. So I think this is a good enough stream for today. I think I made some really good progress. Got really basically like just taking one step at a time each day to make myself move towards the direction of getting the work done that I want to get done. I got like 2 paragraphs written. Okay, it's not like, you know, a novel. It's not a full story yet. It's just 2 paragraphs. But you know what's going to happen is after the stream's over, I'm going to be resting. This is going to be, you know, I'm going to be working on this in the background. I'm going to work on my novel a bit later, off stream. But I think it's good every single day I should do a stream for a couple hours, just doing short stories, you know, just as like a daily practice for writing. And then eventually, hopefully, we can get to a point where I could write an entire short story in one stream from blank page to published on my blog. Yeah, a little bit ambitious, but you know, I don't like I don't like doing things halfway. Okay, like I like setting up, like I like setting myself really large goals. Okay, like I don't like doing things halfway. So yeah, I think I got a lot done. It doesn't seem like it in my head, but I know that I got a lot done. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. If you were here, thank you so much for supporting me. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Rebecca Lauren, and see you next time where we're gonna get some writing done. Okay, this is gonna be a new workflow for my stream. Because we're actually getting something done instead of just playing video games. I think that's actually really important. Like, because I'm actually developing stories that I'm gonna publish on a blog. Okay, like that's an actual goal. Jeez, Rebecca, you might accidentally be successful. Okay. Anyway, awkward Zoom wave. Bye.